How's it going, everyone? I'm just one buck, also known as Skytracer in-game. The first misconception I'd like to tackle here is that you need an expensive rod and reel to see decent results on Belaya, and this simply isn't true. I'm going to show you how to properly set up one of the cheapest rigs in the game and not only catch fish, but also make solid money and experience as an early to mid-game player. The main point of this setup is to keep everything as cheap as possible so that if anything does break, it can be easily replaced. If we compare this to bottom or float fishing, which end up damaging much more expensive equipment and costing heavily on bait and supplies, you'll see that this setup is not only worth the roughly 150 silver, but it can give you a substantially larger return on investment than other early game setups. Once you have this set up, you can freely start fishing in any of these commonly active locations around the map. The most popular ones are 71, 69, casting east towards the open spot on the other shore, 71, 63, just to the right or left of the large rock, 73, 49, casting slightly up current, 71, 37, again to the right or left of the rock, and 65, 26, casting much more south but still on the eastern side of the river in the deeper sections. I'd recommend two different fishing methods to try in all of these spots, but if you'd like to start fishing immediately, you can go to any of these locations and try fishing them at reel speeds 16, 21, 26, or 33. All of these retrieval speeds can catch you fish, so what I'd recommend is that you go to each spot and test each speed for a good few casts until you catch a fish at these sizes. For brown trout, 1.5 kilo. For grayling, also 1.5 kilo. And for chub, 2.5 kilo. These sizes are great indicators that you found a potential trophy spot and proper speed to fish with. The other commonly used method for Belaya is reeling your lure up to the surface, then letting it fall and roll with the current. Grayling and chub in particular like this fishing method as they sit slightly lower in the water body, and with Belaya being so shallow, your lure is spending a lot of time in their strike zone. Keep in mind the opposite is also true for fish like pike and taimen, which typically stay towards the water's surface. Now that we've gone over a basic setup and spots to try out, let's talk a bit about line, leaders, lures, and how to figure out what's actively catching larger fish and trophies. First off, let's go over leader size and diameter. In the game forum's official FAQ section, which is linked in the description, they go over the concept of certain fish being skittish, such as trout, chub, asp, and grayling, which are all found on Belaya, and how leader diameter directly correlates to bite rate. There are three mentioned thresholds in the official FAQ: 0.08mm, 0.2mm, and 0.45mm. After personally testing each leader size extensively, I can confidently tell you that bumping down your leader's line diameter dramatically increases your bite rate. The typical leader sizes people use on Belaya are 4.4 or 6.4 kilograms. If you're struggling to get fish to bite, make sure the line used to make your leader is the proper size. There's been a misconception going around that you can use any line size to make your leader as long as you have the proper swivel. For example, some people were using 55 kilogram line and a 19 kilogram swivel to make 19 kilogram leaders for Quarry Lake and suffering with a low bite rate because the material they used was far too thick. Quickly noting here that to make your own leader you need to buy the fishing tool from the hardware store, along with your preferred line and swivels from the tackle shop. Then simply press N on your keyboard to open your crafting menu and choose the leaders on the left side. Now let's move on to how to set up your pole for spin fishing. People typically use a setup of braided mainline with a fluorocarbon leader. This is because braided line has the smallest diameter of the three line types, allowing for the highest amount of line to be placed on your spool, whereas fluorocarbon is generally transparent and much thicker, which makes it harder to bite through for fish like pike and zander. Nylon monofilament, also known as monoline, is typically used when you're fishing in ways that don't attract predatory fish that can bite through your line, such as float fishing or fishing on Yama River, since braided line can scare off fish and fluorocarbon line only comes in 100-meter spools. Now that we've discussed the different lines and leaders, let's look over hook sizes and briefly go over some things you can experiment with. When you're testing a spot, you'll want to use the smallest hooks available and just see what kind of fish you're pulling in. Then, based on their size and frequency, change your hook size until you start getting larger fish without sacrificing too much on your bite rate. In general, a larger hook will catch you larger fish, but usually lowers your bite rate. I'd still recommend trying larger hooks here on Belaya, as all of my trophies on this water body were caught with either size 2 or 2/0 hooks. Also make sure you read the hook's description in the store, as a lot of them tell you specifically what they're good for. Finally, let's go over finding active lures and baits. This information can be used for any fish you're targeting to give you a great starting point to hone in on trophy fish. All of the websites I'm about to discuss will be posted in the description. The first place I go to check is en.rf4-stat.ru. Here you can search through the maps for fish or specific baits and see what people have been catching. The site pulls information from the main game website every 10 minutes and displays all regional and global weekly records, so don't be surprised if you find your own name on here. I then check rf4trophies.com. This website also has a phone app, and people are posting here far more frequently than they used to. Just make sure you find multiple posts of the same spot, as a lot of people will post old spots as a joke. Once I figure out the bait and spot I'm going to be trying, I go to rf4.info and look at the map layout. Here you can put in the spot coordinates and casting distance to figure out what hole you're fishing in. If your spot slows down, try moving around a bit and casting into the same hole. The fish may have moved to slightly shallower or deeper waters depending on the temperature. Another great place to check is Discord. The RF4 official Discord or other communities such as the Canadian Ways Discord have people that are constantly posting their trophies and new spots. So if you aren't sure what you'd like to fish for, then maybe something over there will spark your interest. Lastly, I'd just like to say, you should keep in mind that experimenting and figuring out your own setups is never a bad thing, and you shouldn't let yourself feel discouraged based on what others tell you is right or wrong in such an open-ended game. Well, that's all for now. I really hope you guys enjoyed this quick guide, and if you have any questions or guide suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you'd like to see next month's guide, make sure to subscribe. And thank you guys for watching. I'm wishing you all the best with trophy hunting. Tight lines, everyone.